I'm a multi-hyphenate babe.
What is a multi-hyphenate babe to you?
I want this to be like a really punchy answer that you can like put on a t-shirt.
That's really powerful.
Yeah, my God. If you ask, you'll receive. Like,
Yeah.
I've been amazed at the amount of people that have shown up and out just because you ask for things. And
Yeah.
people are so hungry to also like join you on that journey.
And you've given yourself evidence that you can do it. And that's something that no one can take away from you.
I was about to swear. Do you swear on this one?
We can swear.
Yeah, you're the basically. Everyone's like,
Incredible. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm joined by the amazing Olamide. Can you please start by introducing yourself?
yes, my name is Olamide Ajisafe and I'm a writer, director, performer.
Incredible. So we're going to talk a little bit about all the hats you wear and your journey. And I want to start with how you got into the creative industry. So when we were chatting before, you shared that you have always been super interested in like performing arts and the creative world. So what is your origin story?
Oh, you mean like day one origin
Yeah.
story? Okay, so Jack and the Beanstalk, primary school. I get cast as the Golden Goose and I have to lay an egg live on stage. And it was, when I tell you that acting was 10-10, and I literally saw like parents in the audience, like tears of laughter, like everyone was crying, everyone was like, that was amazing, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, I could do this, do you know what I mean? And that was the first time. I don't know exactly how old I was, but I remember from a young age being like, oh, maybe, and like trying to force my parents to take me to like, there's really dodgy places where you can like try and scout your children to be on like Disney Channel, and they're like, yeah, we love them, you just need to pay us like 10 grand and then you'll be famous. So that didn't work, but then I just kept kind of having an interest in it, and then building it up, and GCSE, doing drama A-level, all of that stuff. Like I've just always kind of done it. But that was the like original story.
Awesome. And you shared when we were chatting earlier as well that you went to grammar school and that you were surrounded by a lot of people who went into like STEM and that kind of world, and you knew from a young age that you were a creative girly and that you wanted to go into that industry. So how did it feel to kind of be different from your peers from a young age and just know that you're not following the quote unquote conventional path and you're creating your own path?
Yeah, it was interesting. It was I think it was a little bit scary because obviously like GCSEs, not obviously, how my school did it is you do a like breadth of subjects, so it didn't feel that different then because we were all doing like still the sciences and the maths and stuff like that. But when it was time to make the decision for A-levels, and I was like, why would I do science? Like that's literally like my brain doesn't work like that, and I have no interest in it whatsoever. And the subjects that I excelled in were the creative ones. It was the English, it was the drama, it was the media, and I was kind of just like, that's what I want. I also did A-level maths, and then that didn't go well. I was like, whoops. Obviously it didn't, because I had no interest in it, and I just like wouldn't revise. I wouldn't do anything. So I tried, but then it didn't click. But I think I would have been like portraying myself if I tried to go down that road, because that wasn't my niche, that wasn't my brand anyway. Like I've said, from a young age, it's been like, this is what I do, doing the school productions every year, stuff like that. So it was scary being like, oh, you're locked in, like, and looking at university courses, for example, and being like, the A-levels that I'm picking now are definitely limiting what I can do later on, etc. And like a lot of people went for like Oxbridge and stuff like that in my school, and I was like, that's not my path, that's not my journey. So yeah.
And speaking of uni, you shared that you went to Birmingham and that it was not the most fun experience for you there. And can you share a little bit more about that and what it was like going and being one of the only people of colour in your course and navigating like your start to creative industry as a woman of colour?
Yeah, so that was a very expensive mistake. So yeah, I did drama and theatre arts, the course, because I was like, I'm going to be the next big thing, do you know what I mean? And the year in question, Birmingham was #1 for drama, because I got like an unconditional to like, I think it was East Anglia, yeah, applied for a few different places, all to study like drama and English and stuff like that. But then that was the only open day that I missed. And then I was just like, oh, but it's the best. So I'm gonna go there because it's the best. And like in the brochure, there was like a black girl that looked like she was having a lovely time. And then I show up on the first day and I'm looking around and I'm like, oh, I am the black girl on the brochure. Like no one else is coming. It's just me. Okay. And obviously it was Birmingham and I was like, that's one of the most diverse cities in the UK. And coming from London, like I'm just used to like it being different, you know. But then going to a grammar school, like there was a really large white population but also Asian population, but just like not a really big black population. So I was kind of used to being like an odd one out in a way, but I think there's a really big difference between being the odd one out and feeling like the odd one out, if that makes sense. And I definitely felt like that at Birmingham, like in my course and stuff. And I just think I was a bit naive at the time. I felt like it was kind of a bit more like drama school in the way that the course would have like laid out, but it was just a lot of essays about a lot of stuff I didn't care about, and then like one practical session a week. And also you had to do stagecraft. So like stage management and like painting and stuff like that. And I would just fall asleep and I'd be like, I literally don't care. So that, my thing is like, I don't like quitting. And I didn't even know that was an option. It was only when one of my friends on the course dropped out, I was like, oh, you can do that. Like I didn't know you could do that. So then I secretly applied to Warwick at the time, and I had a friend that was studying liberal arts and I hadn't heard of that before. And I think one thing with Birmingham is that I felt quite constricted because like I'm a multi-hyphenate babe, right? And I like tried to switch to at least do like drama and English and stuff, and they were like no, and I was like I just don't want to do this. So liberal arts is like you can specialise in this and you can go down this pathway, etc, etc. And I was like, that sounds like a bit of me. So I applied, and then I was kind of like, if I don't get in, again, thinking about the A-levels I'd done, I was like, I've set myself down a very specific path, so I wasn't sure if it would translate. I mean, I got good grades, so that helped. So then I was like, oh, if I don't get into work, I'll just stay at Birmingham and just like put up with it. But then it got to a point where I was like, even if I don't get in, I'm not staying here. I gotta go. And then I got into Warwick, luckily, and I did liberal arts, and it was just, the comparison was crazy. I felt like, as well as Birmingham in terms of course, it was also like the people in terms of like, there was a lot of play there, which is great, but I felt like at Warwick, there's so much play, but there's so much hard work. Like it's so regular to talk to people that have businesses, that are entrepreneurs, that are making their own paths like you, do you know what I mean? Like, and that was like the norm, whereas like I didn't feel that at Birmingham, and I didn't feel as inspired as that.
I think what you said about the brochure is so interesting, because I think that's how sometimes we get, scammed is not the right word, but for lack of a better word,
use it.
for lack of a better word, like our expectations and our reality, there is a bit of a dissonance there. And so I want to talk a little bit about just that aspect in the creative industry in general, in working in drama, and you've worked on TV as well, and how sometimes from an outsider's perspective, like even now we're in a studio, we're filming a podcast, it can seem really glamorous from the outside, but it is technical. There's a lot of boring admin, it can be difficult, it can be grimy, nitty gritty. So what has been your experiences aside from university where you feel like the brochure effect has taken place?
Oh, it's the whole industry. It's like, you watch a TV show, or like you even see someone's post on Instagram, oh, I just finished this really glitz and glam show and it's massive in Hollywood. But the reality of being on set every day for like up to 14 hours a day, like it is grueling. Like people work so hard. I think crews on TV sets are literally like the most hardworking people that you'll ever meet. And they really don't get that much love. And it's like, you're not going to the Emmys and you're seeing all of them there. Like, it's very specific departments that get put in this limelight, but it takes so many people, so many hands come together to make a show. So I think that's the biggest thing, and a lot of it is sitting around and waiting. It's like, oh, we do a shot here and then we have to do a set move and then we have to wait for ages, or the hours are crazy and you're doing a night shoot, and it's like, if something's at night on TV, it's at night. Like, we shot that at night, probably at 2 a.m. It was probably cold. We were probably hungry. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a real balance of, like, having that frustration, but also knowing and loving the art that comes out of it. So I think it's a really tough game, and competition is rife. There's a lot of nepotism. There's a lot of poor working conditions, definitely, as well. I think it's hard because it's such a freelance field that, like, people can get away with a lot of stuff, you know, and it's like you have things like Beck 2 in place to try and stop some of that stuff, but not everyone signed up to Beck 2. It's like, it's the union, sorry. Oh, okay. Yeah, the TV workers union thing. Put that in an ad. And yeah, so I think it's kind of like a rat race. And you see people and you're like, oh, I'm doing so great. But then you could do like the biggest job of your life and then not have another job for months. Like, it's a tough game, definitely.
That's so interesting. And you said that you're a multi-hyphenate babe. And I think that's so powerful. And just for anyone who doesn't know what a multi-hyphenate is, can you quickly give us the definition before I ask you my follow-up question?
Oh, I mean, I would be making up this definition.
Yeah. Like, what is a multi-hyphenate babe to you?
Oh, I want this to be like a really punchy answer that you can like put on a t-shirt. A multi-hyphenate babe is someone that doesn't let labels define them and how they see themselves.
That's really powerful. Yeah, my God. So we talked a little bit about off camera how being a multi-hyphenate babe is not only fun, but it also is some ways financially, like, it's wise, because like you said, when you work in industries and creative industries, some of the work is very seasonal. And so when you're a multi-hyphenate babe, you can like create different streams of income. And so can you chat to us a little bit more about that side of how you made your career a little bit more weatherproof by becoming more of a multi-hyphenate babe? Yeah,
so I think for me, I feel very fortunate in that I've always worked in the creative industries, like from when I was at uni, from when I left uni, like to now, like I've always, even if it hasn't been exactly what I want to be doing at that point, it's always been creative and I've not had to like pivot. So I think it's kind of like followed me on the path of my interests. So when I was at uni and I was doing a lot of radio stuff, and then I managed to bag an internship at the BBC in first year, and then I was like doing sprinkles of that throughout my whole degree, especially because COVID happened, so there was a lot more like remote work going and stuff like that. So when I graduated, I was able to go to the BBC straight away. Like as soon as I came home to London, I was like working at the BBC, and it was like crazy. And then I was in like the freelance pool for that, because it's quite rare to get contracts at the BBC. And then also doing bits outside, keeping on going with my other interests in terms of like getting my first running gigs and talking to people, and then getting other jobs through talking to people. I think that's such an important lesson in this field, especially because a lot of the time these things are not advertised formally, so it's not like you can just go out and apply on LinkedIn to certain jobs, you know what I mean? So I think that's how I've been able to branch out in that way and work on this project and that project. And then once you do that, it's kind of like a word of mouth thing. If you do a good job, like you'll get recommended for a different thing. Balancing them is another story, but I'm a little bit of a workaholic, trying to work on that a bit. But I think it's important in terms of just, yeah, you should always have different streams of income, because nothing's guaranteed. Like you could be booked for a job and it's going to be like 10 months long, and then a couple weeks before the actors' strike happens. Do you know what I mean? So there's a lot of things that are quite hard to manage in that way. Yeah.
That's so interesting. And you mentioned your internship at the BBC. A lot of people find it really hard to get their foot in the door in the creative industry because, like you said, there's a lot of nepotism. You can't necessarily apply for all these roles on LinkedIn. You sometimes don't even know the opportunities out there until it's already on screen or on stage. And so how can people who don't have a pre-existing network, or an uncle who works in TV, or a cousin who works on radio, get their foot in the door?
Yeah, I think I'm like application queen. Like half of the, like all of the things I've done, I've like applied for in terms of like tangible like credits and stuff like that. So I specifically the BBC internship, I was following a page called Talk Number 2 Dan. And they're just like a creative agency that help people get jobs in. I just followed them on Instagram and they repost opportunities that do come up. So, for example, the BBC is quite good in that they usually do tend to post those things publicly. So I found out about it through then, and then like a friend sent it to me as well. And I was like, oh, I've just started doing radio, so this is like a great opportunity. Let me apply. And I think that's like a recurring theme. Like I follow pages on Instagram. I'm part of like loads of WhatsApp group chats and stuff like that where people just post opportunities. And there's like too many to count. Like there are actually so many, but you have to be in the know, and that's a privilege. And that like even just living in London, growing up in London and being able to take up these opportunities, that is another privilege within itself. So I definitely think knowledge is power in this game. So like following people that are giving it, like following you, for example, do you know what I mean? Like you are constantly like putting out resources and stuff like that. Like being in the know in that way means that you can then actually go for these opportunities, because you don't need to be an FA baby. It makes it easier. It really does. But you don't need to be one.
We can make our own Nepo.
I can't wait to have
we can collaborate and make a little list, and I'll put it in the description of some good pages to follow, because I think that'll be really helpful. You said you're application queen, and I think that's also like something that if you don't find intuitive, you don't know what people are looking for, and you can shoot yourself in the foot. You might have so much talent, but you might not know how to communicate that in a written form on an application. So do you have any application tips?
It's so interesting because I get rejected all the time still as well. I got a rejection like 2 days ago. Like I say application queen maybe in terms of quantity rather than...
But rejection is part of the game.
It is. And you know what? Having said that, everyone that you apply for and you don't get it, it's like, oh, what would I tweak for the next one, you know? But I'm fortunate in that a lot of the things I apply for are like project-based, do you know what I mean? So I applied with my writing, for example. So even if the actual application part isn't as good as possible, if your work speaks for itself, then that's part of it, you know? So I think it's about being honest. Like, why do you actually want this opportunity? Because I find personally sometimes when I'm like, oh, I'm going to apply for this, and then I forget about it and I do it the night before, I'm like, did I really want that? And I'm like, am I doing that for the sake of it? Are we doing it for the clout of the name, etc.? Because like people can see why you want to do things, and that's often a question asked, like, why you? Why should you? Why is this the right time for you? How will this help your career? And I think if you can answer that authentically, then you're going to be in with a good chance.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm going to add a tip on from my perspective as well, because I've done a little bit of stuff in creative industry, but also like working in entrepreneurship now. I see as someone who now is hiring talent as well, which is pretty insane. I think doing your homework is really important as well, because why you is so important, but not just why you in like a vacuum, why you with the team that you want to work with. And so if you know, like, I want to do this work, or I want to work with this team because it will help me, but it will also help you in a specific way, like that's gold.
Yes,
that's
definitely.
Gold. If you can say this experience would add me value and would add you value, and this is how. Yeah. Lottery.
Yeah. I think a big thing I do is, depending on the institution, I go on their website, and most companies have like an about us, and they have like an ethos, and they might be like, we stand for this, this and this. And then in my answer I'll be like, I stand for this, like reusing wording. I mean, obviously not lying, because it has to be authentic, because then otherwise why are you applying for the thing? Yeah. But showing that you have done that research and you're like, oh, this is what you're about, and this is why we align. And yeah, I think just having those like trigger words that people are like, oh, like she knows what she's talking about, or she fits.
Yeah. I think what you said about your work as well is so powerful in building a portfolio, especially again as a multi-hyphenate babe, like having a layered portfolio of different elements of your work and showing people the talent. For people who aren't as good at compiling and creating a portfolio, do you have any advice on how to create something that stands out and kind of personal brand? as a creative so that you can bring opportunities to you through that personal branding or that portfolio rather than just applying?
That's a great question. And like, I still feel like I'm building my portfolio up. Like, there are things that I'm doing for the first time this year still, like my first like proper short film and stuff like that, which I was like going on and on about, being like, I need to have something tangible, because especially like working in theatre, for example, it's not the same as like a film where you're like, oh, here's the link, here's my work. It's like, it just happens, if that makes sense. So I was like, I've done all these things, but half of them I don't have something to show for it. So I think the easy answer is like, you could build a website, or you could like, I think Instagram is a really big tool. Again, I am being such a hypocrite. When was the last time I posted? But it's such, and it's the only reason I actually keep Instagram, because for example, had I deleted it, I wouldn't have met you. We wouldn't be talking right now. So
Exactly.
I think especially in the creative industries, it is actually like a really good tool, and it doesn't always need to be like, oh my god, I just like won a BAFTA, here I am, blah, blah, blah. It can also be like, you can post on your story looking to collaborate with this kind of artist, and I think like if you ask, you'll receive. Like I've been amazed at the amount of people that have shown up and out just because you ask for things, and people are so hungry to also like join you on that journey. So I think definitely collating everything, and I think there's a lot of pride and maybe a bit of ego, especially in the creative industries, in terms of like hoarding your work. Me as a perfectionist, I'm like, oh my god, but it's not perfect, like not everyone wants to see, like people want to see the journey as well, and I'm talking to myself when I say this as well. So I think posting the thing, even if you think it's not quite perfect, people love to see people trying. That is one massive thing that I've learned, because I can watch a film and be like, that wasn't my favorite thing, but then I'm like, but they made a whole film, they had an idea, they saw it through to fruition, and their baby is out there. And that is so cool to me, and that's really admirable. So post the thing, you know?
And what about cringe? What about the fear of being perceived? And look, even if you're in creative industry, even if you're an actor, I said to you just before the camera started rolling, I'm scared to make eye contact, and I literally do this like basically every day. And so that can still come up, and you can still feel, if you're a perfectionist, scared to put your work out there when you know you're starting out. So do you have any advice on dealing with the inner critic and the fear of judgment, not just from others, but from yourself?
Yeah, I would just say do it scared. Like you can't stop yourself, because otherwise you're not going to progress at all. And again, speaking about myself, like there are things that I've done this year that I'm like, I could not have imagined doing that before. And I did it, and my legs were shaking, but I did it. You know what I mean? And now I can be like, I've done a thing that I was really proud of. And I think it comes from having confidence in your work as well. Like, as scary as it is, if you're like, no, but I know this is really good, then you're going to be more inclined to like want to share that with the world. And I think the special place as an artist is when you get to a point where it's like, I like this, I'm going to put it out, even if everyone else hates it. I like that. Yeah. And that's perfectly valid, and that's okay.
I think what you're saying is so true, because it's that whole piece of self-validation. If you want to stop caring what people think, you have to stop asking them, and you have to learn to self-validate, and that's hard because we're not necessarily trained to do that. But I think it's so powerful. And so let's take this moment for you to shout out some of your wins, because you said that you have done some really big things this year. So tell us.
So I think I'm in post-production for my short film, my debut short, called New Starter. And I also just did a one-woman play called Mothership at Theatre Peckham Fringe that I started writing at the Royal Court like a year ago. Those are the two like babies that I'm like really honing in on right now. And I think both of them, just in terms of fear levels, like I was so scared to do both because they're such big jumps. I think because I've done like a lot of assisting and stuff throughout my career as well, going from whatever assistant to the main thing is a huge jump. And I think I really had to have a word with myself, because I was like, I could keep doing this assistant thing for as long as possible. Like, there are jobs, it's easy, it's this, it's that. But I was like, until you do the jump, you're never going to progress. You're never going to get past that. And I think that's actually kind of a downfall of this industry, in that there are lots of opportunities within a certain rank, but there's not a lot of like opportunities to propel yourself, because people are scared, because money, because this and that. So with both those projects, self-funded, had to do it myself, like that's, and I needed to do that for me as much as it was for the projects, you know. I had to prove to myself that I could do those things. So yeah, I'm really proud of them.
That's incredible, and I have so many questions. I love the idea of the fact that you gave yourself a strong talking to, and the idea of giving yourself like an intervention. That's something that I need. That's something I imagine the listeners will need at certain points when you feel like you're selling yourself short. And so what pep talk did you give yourself, and how can the people who are listening and watching learn and give themselves the pep talks that they need and deserve to take a leap?
Yeah, I think it's so hard, but it's that self-validation thing that you just mentioned. It's like getting to a point where it's like, this is where I want to be. Are you taking the steps to get to where you want to be? And having to sit yourself down and be like, let's be realistic. If we keep going down this road, it's not going to happen, is it? So I think it's important to be intentional in that chat, though, and like not turn it into like a bashing thing where you're like, oh, you're not this, you're not that. For me, like, I've always found it really inspiring looking at other people that are doing really well.
Yeah.
Like, I find it weird when people, like, when other people are doing well and they're like, oh my God, ill, blah, blah, blah. Because I've always been like, oh my God, how do I do that as well?
Yeah.
Like, I remember, like, really specifically going on this one babe's page on Instagram, and her highlights were just the most incredible, like, she was like a journalist or something, the most incredible credits I've ever seen. And then I was like, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm going to make my own highlights. And after that, I did loads of stuff, and I was like, oh my God, like, I'm actually doing it. So I think for me, it's that thing of, in the least judgmental way possible, being like, are you fulfilling what you need to do? And also looking around and being like, so-and-so's doing this, and you don't necessarily think that's the best thing in the world, but like, it's because they went for it. Again, just even having a finished product is such a thing that it's like, why wouldn't you do that? It's kind of like, come on, babe, like, chop, chop, let's do it. So I would encourage people to, in the least judgmental way possible, like, genuinely sit down and being like, this is your goal. Are you actively working towards that? And a lot of the time the answer might be no, or it might be like, I'm trying to, but it's not working. So then it's like, how do you pivot out of that? So really just assessing where you're at and being like, come on, babe.
I love that, because I think that combines both strategy and emotion, in that you're giving yourself the structure and the support, but also giving yourself the support emotionally. And I think that that's probably the thing that propels you to do your end-to-end production for both your one-woman play and your short. So tell us a little bit about the process of, like, what do you actually, let's start with the play. Like, what does that entail? If there's someone who's watching that's interested in being a producer or is an actor or actress, like, what steps do they have to take? Can you break it down?
Yeah, so Mothership was like a long journey. Like, so after uni, I was like concentrating more on like writing and directing and stuff like that, because like I like had like stage fright, and I was like, oh my God, I can't even like act, I can't do that. So I was really used to that, and then I got asked to direct like a short rapid write response, like a 10-minute play at a theatre called Theatre 503, and they have this program where like every main house show they'll invite writers in to write a response and then pair them up with 6 directors. So I'd already been like booked to direct the thing, but I was like, you know what, I like miss writing and I haven't done that in so long, so I'm just going to write one as well. And then I wrote it, and then I sent it, and then it didn't get picked, and it was like, because you can't do both the directing and the writing, etc. So I was like, cool, but then I was like, I like this thing, I like what I've done there, a little bit of something there. And then the Royal Court has their yearly programme that they open up, the Intro to Playwriting group. So I had this 10-page thing, and I was like, oh, I might as well like apply for it. And I think at this stage, I wasn't even like, I didn't consider myself like a writer. And the thought of anyone writing my work was terrifying. Like, I literally hadn't done it in years. It was just directing. And then it didn't get into that. And I was like, but I was like, there's still something there. So then I applied for the Plays from Your Notes app scheme. And it had something ridiculous, like 1,000 applicants, and there was like 11 of us that got the commission. It was insane. Thank you. And that was me just like having that mixture of being delusional, but also like just believing in my work and being like, there is something in this, and I really like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's just like a bigger lesson for the whole industry. It's like, it might be a no the first time, might be a no the second time, but the third time,
yeah,
maybe you get your thing and it becomes like a whole massive project, and it propels you into this and that. So I think after doing that Royal Court program, it was like a year later that Theatre Peckham Fringe opened up, because I'd like saw whispers about it, and I saw a show there actually the year prior, and I was like, I felt a bit stale with Mothership, and I was like, I'm not really doing anything with it, and I don't want it to die a death, because again, I was like, there's something here. So I was applying for a few scratch nights to get it put on, didn't get like quite a few of them. And again, I think it was that in the application thing, I was like, why do I actually want to do this? And it was, dare I say, a bit synthetic is what the word that I want to say. It wasn't like, oh, I really believe in this institution and blah, 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 blah. But then I saw Theatre Peckham Fringe, and I think earlier this year, like, I like didn't get credited for like something that I'd worked on, and it really just like sent me down the spiral. And I had that conversation. It was like, you're getting forgotten because you're not the main person. Do you know what I mean? And it's not even an ego thing. It's like, you just want to get to a point where you, like, there's no way your name could be forgotten because you were the lead artist in a thing. So I was like, the turnaround time for this would be like ridiculous if I got it. And like, I'm already doing a whole short film and like trying to produce that and write that and direct that. But I was like, but I feel compelled to like apply for this. And obviously it was the one where it was like super last minute, like however many hours before the deadline closed, but it was like an opportunity to actually put my work on, not just for one scratch night, but for like multiple nights. Yeah. So yeah, I applied and then I got it, and it's the hardest thing I've ever done. Like, it's so difficult. I think theatre compared to like TV as well, like I've not done any theatre producing or anything like that, so that felt like a different world. No money, like it was very much, they gave you a platform and they gave you some like marketing aid and some like in-kind rehearsal space, but it wasn't like, oh, we're gonna hold your hand and then this is how you put on a play. So it was me like utilising connects that I've made for over the years in the industry. And again, it goes back to the whole thing of just like asking people, like reaching out to friends and being like, this is my project, do you believe in it, do you believe in me, let's work on it together. So I think that's the biggest thing in terms of, if you don't know how to necessarily start as a theatre producer or whatever, reaching out to people, that's the only way I've ever gotten anything. And then we put on a flipping play, and it was like incredible, and we like sold out 2 nights, and it was just the wildest thing. And we had like 3 rehearsals with the director, and I learned like a 50-minute script, and I was rewriting pages like days before, and it was mad, and it was this and that, but it was so worth it. Yeah. And I'm so much more confident in myself and in the piece as well.
That's beautiful, and I truly believe that confidence is created by evidence, and you've given yourself evidence that you can do it, and that's something that no one can take away from you.
Oh, and I love that.
Yeah, it's cool, right?
Yeah.
And one thing I want to ask you about this whole end-to-end process is, I imagine that you were not equally as good or confident in all of the bits. I find that in making a podcast, I know how to do most of it from like a general bird's eye view perspective. Do I find all of it equally intuitive and easy? No. And that is where Miss Imposter Syndrome bubbles up. And I have to learn to like surf those waves. And it's hard because you have 2 options. You can either learn or you can wait. And I'm trying to learn, but it's scary. And you have to be okay with the fact that you are starting and you're not going to know how to do it. Do you have any advice on how to upskill yourself in certain areas of production? It doesn't matter where it is specifically in the process, but like, how do you overcome this thing of, I can't put on a play because I don't know how to do one specific part of the process, for example, or the same with short film, or the same with any creative business life endeavor? Yeah,
I think my biggest thing would be ask questions. Like, don't be afraid to look stupid. Like, I'm like, even though I'm multi-hyphenate, I do not want to be a dictator. If I don't know something, I say, guys, I don't know what I'm doing. What does this mean? Like, how do I do that? But then again, that's a privilege because, like, having worked in the industry, I know people that are willing to chat to me on that level. So I'm someone from the base, like they've not done anything. I would just say Google. Google is your friend.
ChatGPT, low-key.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's insane. Like, even when I was at the BBC, like, editing videos and, like, doing all this stuff, I just feel like, YouTube, how do I do this little editing thingy? And, like, you learn on the job. So I think not being too proud is a big thing. And it hurts my heart when I meet, like, young creatives and they're like, oh, but I'm too scared and I'm this and I'm that. And I'm like, nothing will happen if you're just too scared and you sit still. Like, that is one thing that I can say that is, in my experience, definitely true, unless you have an auntie that's the head of so-and-so or this and that. So, yeah, asking questions.
That's powerful. And how do you ask questions in a way, because you said that a lot of your wins have come from your network and your community that you've built. I think there is a way to ask people for help in a way that they want to help you. Mm-hmm. How do you do it in a way that you're not burdening the people around you? And yeah, how do you ask good questions and for support in the right way?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's a mixture of how you approach, but also knowing what you want. Mm-hmm. In terms of like it being intentional, strategic, but also personable as well. I think for me, a lot of my opportunities have actually come up and I like didn't even know I was asking for one. Do you know, like at the same time, it was like, I'm asking questions of trying to learn and this and that. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, would you like to? And then you're like, hell yeah, I'd like to. And then you go along like that. But I think it depends on the media if you're reaching out to people as well on. Mm-hmm. I mean, I ended up getting Top Boy by sending a director a DM. Like, that is always the craziest story for me because I'm like, at the time, I didn't know that's what it was going to... It's just like, so I used to work at the BBC, right? And then in radio specifically, and then I literally just overheard a conversation about people, like, talking about someone that had worked there before that was then going on to direct another season of Top Boy. And, like, my ears pricked up and I was like, what? Someone went from, like, where I'm sat now to directing Top Boy? Ideal, like that's amazing, I would love to talk to them. And then they said his name and I was like, sick. And then I went on Instagram. Yeah, literally immediately stalked. And I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. And obviously because I'd worked at the BBC and they had like years before me, it was like, oh, that's a common ground. Because people are just humans at the end of the day, like, and they want to make connections with people. So it was literally like a DM that said, I'm working at BBC as well and I eventually want to direct as well, like just like you, could we have a Zoom and then like could you like give me advice, basically. That was it. And then he answered, and you know what, not everyone answers. No. I've got plenty of DMs that have been ghosted as well, so again it's that pride thing of like, oh, someone didn't answer, but the right person will. Yeah. And like the person with the opportunity that you need will. Yeah.
It's a timing thing as well.
Yes.
Because having this podcast, I've got ghosted so many times with people I've wanted to speak to. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they'll come, because I've been doing this for 2 years now. Sometimes they'll come back like 6-7 months later and they'll be like, hey, I'm so sorry. Yeah. I missed this message. Can you do it now? And you're like, yeah. And you're in a better place. Mm-hmm. And you're like, the person I spoke to just before you today, I've been trying to slide into her DMs for months now. Mm-hmm. And the way it worked out is we recorded in this new season in this new studio. And so it all aligns perfectly. And so you can't miss what's meant for you.
Exactly. I love that. That's like my favourite phrase. Like, and I believe it really and truly because there have been things that I'm like, oh my God, but I really, really wanted that. Why didn't it come to me? And then a couple of weeks later, you're like, because if I did that, I wouldn't have been able to do this and then blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, it's a hard pill to swallow, but like I truly believe that.
Yeah, the dots only make sense when you look back. So it's one of those things. Tell us a little bit more. For context, Top Boy is a show on Netflix. What was it like? What is it like directing? So you have worked on Top Blow, Top Boy, 1,000 Blows, and Capture? What was that?
Oh, the Capture. So I was a runner on the Capture. I was a runner on Man Like Mobeen.
Oh, okay.
I was production assistant on The Kitchen. I'm trying to literally like relay my CV right now. I can't remember them all. But those were like on the way, if that makes sense.
And what is it like? Give us the behind the scenes for anyone who wants to work in TV. What are the realities? What can someone expect if they have no idea, if they've not got their first placement or their internship yet? What is it like being on set?
So it's a hard slog. That's the first thing I'll say. It really is. So I started out as a runner, like everyone does. That's like the... I was about to swear. Do you swear on this one?
We can swear.
Yeah, you're the bitch of the set, basically. Everyone's like, get me this, get me that. Hated it. Terrible, horrible. Wouldn't recommend. Actually would recommend though, because I think you have to go in at a lower level to just see what it's like even. Because it's unlike anything. It's not like a regular job unless you've gone to uni and you've like studied TV production. If just like a regular person walks onto a set, they'd be like, what on earth is going on? Like who's that or what are they doing, etc. So that's why I'm still like, I do recommend people being like runners, productions assistants, because you need to like learn the jargon, see who's what, do you know what I mean, in order to be able to do anything. Learn how to read a call sheet, for example, which is just like the sheet of paper you're given every day that says what's going to happen today, and it looks really complex and scary at first. So yeah, being a runner is... But it's kind of like you have to do it. It's a lot of hours. It's a lot of being on your feet. And it's a lot of doing tasks that you probably don't want to do as well. Like you're probably locking off a location that's half an hour away from where the action's happening, or you're getting someone a tea when you really want to be on set, like in the thick of it. Like what you think being on a set is, you want to be doing that. And you're like shoveling shit in a corner somewhere for like the whole day, and you're like, I achieved nothing today. But like you're one of the many cogs needed to just make the whole machine move. So that's why those people are needed. So because I hated that, I didn't stay there for very long as a runner. And I was like, again, I had to have a chat with myself. I was like, I don't want to be a runner. I'm going to stop doing that. And if I'm honest, I was like, I don't know if TV is for me, because I had some like quite bad experiences on sets. Like, I think, again, because it's a freelance thing and there's not that much regulation, like a lot of stuff does slip. Like, people are mean, people say inappropriate things. It can be quite male heavy, and like being a young woman, you can feel a certain type of way. And there were like issues and stuff like that. And obviously being a young black woman, like my first few times on set, I was like, there's no one here that looks like me. And that was not nice. But then again, like with this Top Boy thing, that was the first time that I was director's assistant, which is a completely different thing in terms of like, a runner is only there once you started shooting and they're on set, whereas director's assistant, you're there 2 months before the shoot even happens, and you're planning the shoot, you're assisting the director, you're taking notes, you're going to help pick the locations. It just felt very different, and it felt a lot more fruitful for me. And I know it's such a privilege to have jumped from that to that in like not the longest amount of time. Because I just wasn't going to do that. Sorry. So like some people are runners for years and years and years, and it's again perfect timing and stuff like that, because when I started talking to the director, as we kept talking, it was like, oh, and we're about to shoot another season, would you like to interview for this? And it was like, I didn't even know another season was going to come out, you know what I mean? So it's like God's plan, God's timing. So that's difficult for different reasons. You are the point of contact. So like, for example, on the call sheet, it usually says like people's names and their roles and their email, phone number. And then next to the director, it would say contact Olamide. So like, so people don't go straight to him, like everything comes through me. And I think I learned so much doing that, because now being on set and being like, I don't really know what's going on or who's who, versus being director's assistant and literally all the info's being funneled through me, you learn so much quicker. And that's why I'm like, that role in comparison to the other one just felt a lot different, and I felt important for the first time, which was really nice, because it's such a big machine that sometimes you can feel like you're not. And I've been fortunate that the directors that I've worked with, William Stephen Smith, Ashley Walters, they've just also been like stand-up guys, do you know what I mean? And we've just been able to like have a connection on a human level. And they're both like black men as well, so it's like code switching, I didn't have to do all that. It was really comfortable. And it was hard, don't get me wrong, like it's hard, like the hours, the days that you're doing, like it's difficult, like with anything, like with friends, with family. So I think that's and like director's assistant can vary. So with all of these roles, it's kind of like, this is what this means for this production, if that makes sense. So it's like admin help, logistical help, some creative help if the director like is open to that sort of thing. But it's also things like getting teas and coffees as well, and getting their lunch and stuff like that, making sure their car, their transport is covered. Like it's a breadth of things that you need to do. And it varies to like some directors' assistants might actually direct like second unit as well. So it's a real spectrum, and it depends on all the variables. But yeah, once you're on set, it's like, I almost describe it as slightly more shadowing, because you're like by the monitors as well. You're still doing like all the like tasks and stuff like that, but I think that's another opportunity to like really absorb, because everything you've been planning for 2 months, now you're like actually seeing it.
Yeah.
And you're not just getting rid of some dusty bin in the corner and missing it all. Like you're actually sat with the director and like taking it all in and making sure it runs smoothly.
That's amazing. And it's so incredible that you were able to make that jump between runner and assistant director. How did you know it was time to leave? Like with boundaries, I think boundaries is great, but it can be quite difficult because in order to set boundaries, you need to know what your boundaries are in the first place as well, and what you're okay with and what you're not okay with, and how to communicate that. And that can be really hard to communicate as well, especially if you're young and you're a woman and you're a woman of color. So do you have any advice on boundaries in the creative industry, just in general, how to make sure that you feel respected, valued, and okay in the situation in work?
Yeah, again, I think it's personal check-ins. Like, I think for me, I knew I just couldn't do it when I was sad. I would wake up sad. I was just depressed. I wouldn't want to get out of bed and go to set and stuff like that. And again, because it's such long hours, a lot of the time when you're on a production, that is your whole life. You can't really see your friends and family. You might be doing night shoots, you might be doing weekends, you might be doing this and that. So for me, that's a real marker, and I'm like, I actively don't enjoy this. But again, that is a privilege, because I knew if I left this, I could go and do something else. That's, again, why the multiple streams of income and different multi-hyphenate-ness, it was like, I don't have to suffer, which was nice, because I think otherwise, like, it would have done a lot more damage, you know, to me as a person had I stayed, because it's easy to be like, oh, this is this production company and that production company. And I've kind of been swooned in by that before. Or this person's directing it, cool. That doesn't mean you're going to have a lovely time, you know? So I think it's asking yourself, do I actually want to do this? Am I happy? And like, more importantly, it's like, am I learning right now? What will I get out of this? Because I'll be honest, for the first few, it might just be like, I need a credit on my CV. Yeah. Because it's about building credits. And then when you have a few and you're like, oh, this is okay now, like I don't have to work just for the sake of it. It's like, what am I actively getting out of that? So I think it's, some sets are good as well, in that they might have like welfare officers and stuff like that. Like that's becoming more of a thing now, which is really cool. Like intimacy coordinators, like there's people that are trying to make it easier. There's also the film and TV charity, and they have helplines and they have bursaries and stuff like that. So if you are really struggling, you can contact them. So I think there are people willing to listen, but I think the most important person to listen to is yourself. Yeah.
That's awesome. What is like learning? We talk a lot about representation on screen, and I think that's so important, but what do you think is needed for representation like behind screen as well? Because like you said, on some of these sets you don't see people that look like you, and as a consumer of content and media and stuff, you're seeing more and more actors and performers of colour get on stage. It's happening slowly, but it's happening, and I'm definitely seeing more brown girls on screen, which I love. But what's happening behind screen? Can you give us some insight on that?
Yeah, so the movement is happening slowly, very slowly, you know. I think I'm fortunate in that, having been on like a breadth of sets now, but the ones that I've spent the most time on, like my DA jobs, there was like schemes in place to like trainee schemes and stuff like that, trying to get POC people from disadvantaged backgrounds roles on set. So I think especially like Top Boy, that's the most diverse set I've ever been on. And like having like been burned on a different production, I was like, oh my God, like it can be good. Like I can have people that I relate to, made great friends for life on that set, you know. So I think some people are making a real effort. Again, I think it's the intention of the production companies, like budget restrictions and stuff like that. Like you do have to set aside money for that sort of thing. Or there's organisation called Screen Skills that run a lot of trainee schemes and stuff like that might get attached to productions. So I think I'm slightly skewed in like, I've had like quite a good experience of that, you know what I mean? My most recent show, it wasn't that great, but there was a couple of us around, you know what I mean? But I think it's difficult because it's a time thing as well.
Yeah.
Like the efforts are not going to trickle down for like quite a while, because you'll find a lot of the people in power are still white, especially in production. Like when you're in the office, it is like majority white people a lot of the time, I have found. But a lot of the time when you go on set and you see diversity, it is the trainees, it is the assistants, and I'm just waiting for the day where it's like the HODs and the bosses and the this and the that, which is not to say that that doesn't exist, and there are so many talented black, brown HODs that I've met, and it's like, I don't even know how you've managed to make it up there when people are struggling so much now, and we're like more liberal as a society. They must have been through the trenches to get to where they are. Do you know what I mean? So it's happening, but it's going to be a few years until we're actually the ones in charge.
Fingers crossed. I think it's moving in the right direction for sure.
100%.
At least from what you can see on the screen. So I'm sure that behind the screen must reflect that, because even the choices of who to put on the screen is a symptom of who's off screen. So, yeah, you don't seem like... No, what do you think about that?
It's, I think because the on-screen's the most visual thing, it's easy to be like, oh, we'll get everyone one colour from the rainbow. And then behind the screen, it's still not.
Okay.
It's easier to do that. And I think it's weird sometimes thinking about, you'd be surprised the kind of stories that are being told versus the people that are telling them. And you're like, why are you telling this story then? Or like, is this your story to tell, etc. So it's interesting, but it's a lot of the time it's, again, the people that are in power have the money to commission things. So it's not reflective yet, in my opinion. It's getting there. But you'd be surprised.
I feel like it links back to what we started with around the brochure effect.
Yeah,
I feel like this is the brochure effect, just like on screen. But I don't want us to end on a disheartening note, because I think that from your journey, what you've showed is that it is so fun as well, and that you've paved this incredible journey for yourself, and you've managed to bring yourself so far. So for the people who are listening, let's give them a little bit of encouragement. And for people who are a few steps behind you but want to create their creative career and be a multi-hyphenate babe, or be a writer or a director or an actor, what advice do you have for them?
Yeah. Funnily enough, I actually think it's so positive. That like, even though it's like little trickles of stuff happening, that's so like electric, and it's like, oh, it's happening. And to like be in the generation where we can see that and we're meeting the other people, like I feel like the industry is in such safe hands, because my friends that I know now that are, the assistants, the trainees, the this or that, in the future we are going to be the HODs, we are going to be the bosses, and I'm like, that's going to be amazing, and I have so much faith, and there's so many creative people out there that are just waiting to be given the proper opportunities, and it's going to happen, and I'm just being so like positive and optimistic with that. So I think the most important thing is have a sense of self and where you want to go, but also community is key in this industry. Like, genuinely, you can't get anywhere by yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest things about art and being a quote unquote artist. Like no one cares about your art if it's just you in a room, you know, like it's made to be shared. So like share it, learn from other people. If you don't know stuff, ask them questions, utilize the resources that you have, like being on the ball in terms of opportunities and stuff like that, super important. And I say this also to myself as well, is have fun. Or at least try to have fun, because I get so like perfectionisty and like, oh my god, stressed and this and that. And sometimes, like even on set, when people get really like frustrated and stuff, I'm like, it's not brain surgery, we're just actually playing pretend. Do you know what I mean? Like fundamentally, we get paid to play pretend, and some people get like so worked up about it. And I'm like, it should be a privilege to make art and make a living from it, you know? So trying not to lose that fun, or like keep it for as long as you can, you know? Because that's what makes good art anyway, in my opinion.
That's so cool. And before we wrap up, I usually end the podcast on the theme of gratitude, but I want to end it on the theme of fun today. And you can weave gratitude in there if you want to. But what is something that is bringing you joy? Like, what is fun right now for you?
Oh, what is fun? I mean, there's so many things. I'm trying to think of something that's like different. But I mean, what fun is to me is hang out with friends, cocktails, dinner, theatre shows. I'm always in the theatre. Like, I might as well just live there now. Like, so I think that's my idea of fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. And we're going to, again, have a little chat, and we're going to make a little director's picks so we can give the people some of the non-basic recommendations, because I think there's some good talent that we can spotlight.
100%. Can I actually ask, it's less of a question, can I put something out there for the...
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, because I think it's so interesting that this is like an entrepreneurial like podcast type thing. I have a gap in my skill set of like the business of the arts in terms of like funding and how that sort of works, especially within theatre. In film, I kind of get it a bit more. So I would like to just like open conversation in terms of if anyone wants to reach out or anything like that, talking about the business of film and like how it actually works and how to build a business model out of it, make it like a tangible, I don't even know the word to use, a tangible business model, and see the other side of it, because it's art but it's also a business. And I find that mixture really interesting. So if there's anyone else out there that wants to chat,
slide into her DMs, please.
slide in, why not?
Yeah, awesome. And people who are listening, please slide into her DMs as well, because that's how I got her onto this podcast. And please do it. Please do it, because she is incredible. You are incredible. Thank you for making the time.
Thank you.
Awesome. I actually have a friend for you.
Really?
Sorry, I didn't mean to kick you.